Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well, and welcome to a break in our current schedule of tour videos. Hope you're enjoying the tour in Alaska and Canada that I'm currently putting out. Little break for bike news. September has absolutely flown by, so let's take a look at MCN, see what's been going on in the world of motorcycles here in the UK for the month of September 2022. Okay, so I hope you've been enjoying the Alaska and Canada and US series that I've been putting up. That'll be coming back again on Wednesday, but it being the end of the month means it's time for another bike news. So without further ado, let's crack on with what's been making the headlines this month. Right, first story here. Do you remember in last month's bike news I talked about a trial in some parts of Surrey where speed limits on roads that were the national speed limit, 60 miles per hour, were being cut to 30 and in some cases 20. Well, not surprisingly, there's been anger over the plan to slash these limits. Is this the thin end of the wedge, it says here. Smacks of the war on riders. So it says here in this article, plans to cut speed limits on rural roads from 60 miles per hour to 30 and in some cases just 20 have been given the thumbs down by riders and biking pressure groups. Surprise, surprise. Colin Brown, the Director of Campaigns and Political Engagement at the Motorcycle Action Group, told MCN, I believe that the vast majority of motorcyclists will be uneasy with, if not totally opposed to, the proposed trials in Surrey. I certainly am. No one from Surrey County Council was available to comment. Surprise, surprise. Darryl Williams from Chatham in Kent, he raised further concerns, saying this smacks of the war on motorists and the wider issue of priming a population for having no personal transport in the future and having to rely on totally public transport. If you erode the benefits of owning one's own transport by strangling it, slowing everyone down to walking speeds and making fuel too expensive, people will abandon cars and bikes. It's an interesting view, isn't it? So not good. Surrey apparently aren't the only authority looking to lower speed limits either. There are 8 areas in Wales as well that have been early adopters. Changes underwent a 28-day consultation period across August, with decision expected to be made this autumn. So not good, that is it. It's been wholeheartedly not well received, this reduction in speed limits from 60 to in some cases 20. Absolutely ridiculous. All right, second story here, future proofing. Kawasaki show off next generation of electric and hybrid bikes in Japan. Now, I'm not a massive fan of electric bikes, it has to be said. For me, the cost, the range, and the lack of the noise and gearbox, all that sort of thing, for me at the moment means they're not really a patch on internal combustion engine bikes. If you've never ridden one, I do encourage you to have a go because they are exciting, particularly if you get a performance one, but they are still very expensive, very heavy, lacking in range and so on. Anyway, Kawasaki are now getting in on this because new images of Kawasaki's 2 imminent all-new electric and hybrid bikes undergoing final testing suggest the firm is set to be the first of the Japanese Big Four to put next-generation EV road machines into production. Kawasaki's CEO Hiroshi Ito said, we will show a minimum of 3 electric vehicles globally. That is a promise. The first, a fully electric Roadster. The second is a Fed Sportster and is even more revolutionary in being the world's first hybrid motorcycle combining electric and conventional petrol motors. That is interesting, a hybrid with an electric and petrol motor. It says here, MCN understands it's based on the parallel twin engine from either the Ninja 250 or recently revived Ninja 400, but also equipped with a large electric motor mounted above the gearbox and connected to the transmission via a clutch. No model names have yet been announced. Now that's interesting. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work in terms of weight and so on, but let's see what a hybrid has to offer then. I guess this main picture is that one, hybrid electric vehicle. It says HEV on the side. Actually, it looks quite cool. Let's give it the benefit of the doubt and see what happens. But electric is the way it's going, isn't it, unfortunately? Okay, next up. Jagged little pillion, it says here. New learn illegal Husqvarna Svartpilen is on the way soon. This looks pretty cute to me. It says here, these spy shots give the first view of Husqvarna's replacement for the Svartpilen 125. Based on parent company KTM's upcoming 125 Duke, the new machines featured updated engines, new frames, styling tweaks and TFT instruments. As an A1 class 14.8 bhp 125 unit, its performance is unlikely to be affected, with the changes instead necessary to meet noise and emissions regulations. But it looks pretty cute, and if this is something that maybe will get more riders into riding, then I'm all for it. The 125 Svartpilen looks pretty cool to me. Interested to see what you think in the comments below. Alrighty, next up. Punching above their weight, this mid-range trio of nakeds come loaded with tech, but which is best? So they've put here the Aprilia Tuono 660 factory, which I'm yet to ride, up against the Ducati Monster and the KTM 890 Duke R. So I've ridden the Ducati Monster, which is an excellent bike. I was really surprised by that in a good way. And the KTM 890 Duke R is one of the few KTMs I actually really like the look of. I think it's a really sharp looking bike and really nice to ride. Haven't ridden the Tuono, but I suspect it's all right. Let's see what the verdict was from MCN. John Harry says, our top pick is the Monster. That surprised me, actually. I thought it might be the KTM. The more you ride the Tuono, the more you warm to it, and it's undeniably an excellent middleweight. A factory Aprilia model should be special, though, and this one isn't. Ooh, so that's a bit of a shame. Riding the KTM in sport mode alone will leave you frustrated, as it's too aggressive, making it unpleasant and needy. I guess the answer there, don't ride it in sport mode only. But if you want a bike that is fun to ride and brimming with character, the Monster is our pick. It manages to do everything well with very few irritations. I agree, and more about Ducati's Monster in a later paper. Right, Turbulent Affections. Here's a little story that leapt out to my eye. This is Richard Newland, the editor of MCN. He's been had a long-term test, the BMW K1600 GT, the big full-dress tourer. I'm interested in this, of course, because I own the competitor, in my eyes, the main competitor, the Honda Goldwing, and I will be borrowing one of these in a few months' time to have a try to see what I think of it. And he's kind of listed some pros and cons. He said he's coming to the end of his loan period, and he's saying the things that he loves about it and the things he doesn't like about it. So one thing he loves is the inline sixiness, he says here, very clever headline. What a glorious, wailing, snarling, but liquid smooth lump of inline six brilliance. It's unlikely that another manufacturer will ever bother to package such a collection of pistons for a motorcycle again. Very true, of course, with everything going electric, I think from 2033. So yeah, it's your last chance to try an inline six. Of course, the Goldwing has a six-cylinder engine as well, albeit not an inline, but super smooth. I love these six-cylinder engines, are incredible, and these probably are the last of them. Next thing he says that's amazing are the lights. Light of my life, it says here. The spread, clarity, and intensity of the light is excellent, and with adaptive cornering functionality. So that's good that the lights are good, but I'm surprised that that's the next thing that he thinks is great about the bike. It feels a little bit like clutching at straws, maybe. And then here, big screen attraction. He loves the TFT. It's got that massive TFT, which is shared, I think, with the RT, isn't it? On the Beamers. Clear, easy to understand, vibrant, drowning in detail, and mainly driven by just one menu button and the rocking wheel. It's impressive. Yeah, I've said for ages that BMW make the best TFTs in the business, and that massive one on the K1600 and on the RT certainly is impressive to look at, so I understand that. On the downside, he says a slap on the wrist for the for the front end. While it's entirely composed, it crashes and slaps over bumps like a leaf-sprung cart and robs the GT of its otherwise plush and luxurious demeanour. I'm surprised about this. It finds bumps in roads that I never found before. So I'll be paying attention to that when I ride it. He says that the ride from the front end is not good. He's saying that the shaft drive isn't very good either. He says there's nothing wrong with it on the throttle or off the throttle, but it's the transitions between the two and gear changes that causes winces of mechanical sympathy as it slaps with audible thumping dissatisfaction. Again, I find that a really surprising thing. I'll pay attention to that. And then gravitational force at play is, of course, a big old heavy bike, and he says it's just that the weight is not just noticeable, it's transformative in terms of the rider and manual handling. If you're wedded to the idea of buying a K1600 GT for its luxury touring capabilities, I'd seriously urge you to try the RT for size and weight too. And I agree, that is the big elephant in the room with these big tours, is their colossal weight. With the Honda Goldwing, they've kind of mitigated that by having really good forward and reverse creep modes that are easy to use. The reverse on this, when I rode the older model, wasn't easy to use. And also I found this very top heavy, whereas the Honda Goldwing, it has the weight low down because of the boxer configuration of the engine. So I should be looking at all that again when I get to borrow the GT, and I will be bringing you some videos comparing the two bikes directly. I think that will be of something that's quite of interest to people that are interested in these big touring bikes. So that's it for the first paper. Next up, not necessarily in the order that the papers came out, by the way, new adventures for Suzuki. So Suzuki have done some big updates to their V-Strom. Firm ditched the 1050 XT for off-road focused 1050 DE in updated 2023 V-Strom range. It's a bike that kind of, goes unsung, doesn't it? It's not up there with maybe you could argue the leaders in the pack, the BMW GSs, the Multistradas, but it's always been plodded along there as an excellent bike in the next league down, if you like. Well, they've very much brought it up to date. Have a listen to this. Suzuki have whipped the covers off their 2023 V-Strom 1050 Adventure range, ditching now the 2-year-old XT model in favour of the new DE. I don't know what DE stands for. The DE will sit alongside a standard 1050, with both receiving a 5-inch colour TFT dash, long overdue, to replace the current LCD unit, which did look dated. Also included for both bikes is a two-way quick shifter, centre stand, handguards, plus USB and 12-volt sockets. All good so far. Most of the juicy stuff can be found on the DE, which drops the XT's 19-inch front wheel in favour of a 21-inch rim, so more off-roady focused. The DE also gets longer travel, fully adjustable KYB suspension, again aiding its off-road capabilities, I guess. Rake and trail have been increased on the DE. You also get chunky foot pegs for off-road boots and 40mm wider handlebars. There's also a taller first and sixth gear. The DE has been kitted out with some new electronics too. Both models gain Suzuki's 6-axis IMU for 2-stage lean-sensitive ABS plus hill hold and more. Prices are yet to be announced for either model. So with all those changes, it really does sound like Suzuki have dragged the V-Strom into 2023, doesn't it? I guess this is the 2023 model year. And yeah, I've always had a bit of a soft spot for the V-Strom, actually. I rather like it. Yeah, there we go. So some big updates for that if you're a fan of Suzuki's. Okay, next up, Ducati's Lambo Fighter. Now, I love a green bike, and what they've done here, Ducati's done one of these teaming ups again with Lamborghini. Do you remember they did one on the Diavel a while back, didn't they? And they made that lovely green with gold wheels Diavel. Well, they've done the same sort of thing with the Streetfighter V4. This is a green and red model, lacking the gold wheels this time. It says here, meet the Ducati Streetfighter V4 Lamborghini, limited to 630 numbered units, set to be delivered to customers in April 2023, and it costs, wait for it, £55,995, so well-heeled people only need apply. It's got a new set of forged wheels to mimic those of the Lamborghini Huracan, plus a single titanium locking nut to, again, mimics the Lamborghini design. Carbon fibre front mudguard, tank cover, belly pan, seat and tail, all tweaked to mimic the look and feel of the car. It gets billet aluminium adjustable foot pegs, light and levers, heel guards, rear seat pad, TFT dash cover, ignition switch cover and rear sprocket protector are all made of the same carbon fibre as the altered bodywork. It does look fantastic. Ducati are going to hold a further 63 of these bikes exclusively for Lamborghini customers, known as the Speciale Clienti Edition. Owners can have the option to configure their bikes in exactly the same body colours and rims as their car. So there we go. If you're super rich, that's the sort of thing you could do. What I would suggest though, instead of spending 56 grand on one of these, buy yourself the standard V4, which is an amazing bike, and just get a green paint job done, and it would look just as good. And frankly, do you need all the other bits of bling for that sort of price? It would be half the price. Well, maybe not half the price, but it would cost you an awful lot less, and you'd have a bike that looks and performs almost as good. Anyway, lovely looking thing. I've always got a bit of a thing about these brand tie-ups. Triumph have a habit of doing it, don't they? They do it with watch manufacturers, and they did that thing with 007 plastered on a bike. It just looks a bit naff to me. I think it doesn't. For me, it doesn't quite work. I'd just have a green Street Fighter, but you don't need Lamborghini written all over it. Be interested to hear if that's just me whinging or whether you kind of agree with that. Stick your comments below. I love reading those. Another Suzuki story here. Suzuki step up to a parallel universe. Now, this is a bit of a shame story, actually. There's quite a lot of whinging going on in this month's bike news. Here we are, the next-gen V-Strom and SV Spy with a new engine platform. Spotted undergoing testing in mainland Europe, the shots reveal two models, a naked SV-type roadster and a V-Strom adventure bike, both using the same all-new engine platform. The much-loved old 645cc V-twin of the current SV and V-Strom has suddenly bitten the dust, and has been replaced by an all-new twin, but not now in a V configuration. And that's the bit for me that's disappointing. It now has a parallel twin layout, which now dominates the category. Now, I've nothing wrong with parallel twins per se. I've got a few myself in retro bikes, and I think they're great on a retro platform. But there's nothing. Modern bike. I just prefer four-cylinder bikes or the V-twin, which sounded so good in the SV650, didn't it? It's a real shame that's gone. Exact capacity of the new engine is not yet known, although 800cc seems most likely. The new engine also means an all-new chassis, multifunction LCD, and not a TFT, which is unusual, isn't it, or not expected. Although disguised, the two bikes look largely finished, suggesting they will be unveiled at the EICMA show in November as 2023 models. Yeah, a bit of a shame that. I do like the old V-twins, the sound of them in particular, but there we go. I understand why they have to do parallel twins. It's a shared engine across multiple platforms. It makes sense from a development cost point of view, but yeah, it's a bit of a shame, isn't it, that it's gone. Right, next up here, performance for the streets. Why show and go don't have to be opposite ends of the biking spectrum, and here they're comparing the Indian Scout Rogue with the Harley-Davidson Nightster, neither of which I've ridden, but I've ridden a few Harleys, I have ridden a few Indians, and for me, Indians are always better than Harleys. I'm sorry about that, Harley fans. I kind of get why Harleys have such a dedicated following. But for me, for similar types of bikes at similar types of costs, and these are within 30 quid of each other, by the way, I wouldn't mind betting that the Indian's the better bike to ride. Let's see what MCN have said. They have actually ridden them. John Urry, in fact, has ridden them. He said it's the Harley-Davidson, but only just, so not quite what I would have said. He's given them both 4 stars out of 5. He says, compared to the Indian, the level of build quality on the Harley is noticeably below the standard I expect on a 13k bike. Interesting. So he's saying the Harley's not built as well. Indians do always have a lovely fit and finish. It's the engine, while undeniably fast when allowed to rev, is tinny and lacking in mid-range when ridden back-to-back with the thumping Indian. So he doesn't like the finish and he doesn't like the engine, yet he would still prefer the Harley. Weird. Conflicted as I am, he says, I find myself leaning slightly more towards the Harley in this class. The Nightster gives performance precedence over Cruiser, where the Rogue swings the other way. The Harley's sporting focus suits my demands better, but I would need to do something about that fueling and lack of mid-range. So maybe it's just the sort of rider you are. He narrowly prefers the Harley-Davidson because it performs, it's a faster, quicker bike, but actually the build quality of the Indian is superior. Anyway, there we go, so that's interesting. Right, moving on to the third paper. Don't forget, by the way, parish notice is coming after we've gone through the papers, giving you some details about what's coming up on the channel soon. Norton Atlas scrap. This is another shame of a story, isn't it? I love the look of these Nortons. These were from the Stuart Garner era, when we all thought Norton was going to gear up to become a mass producer of motorcycles and produce bikes that competed with the likes of Triumph, Bonnevilles, that sort of thing, at prices that we could all afford. But it turns out that ain't the case. TVS confirmed that the Garner era 650 twin will not be going ahead. What a shame. The much anticipated affordable Norton 650 Atlas twin will now no longer go into production. First unveiled in April 2019, the Atlas was set to be an all-new entry-level retro-style bike priced between $9,995 and $11,995. The current CEO, Dr. Robert Henschel, has now confirmed that the Atlas has been canned, leaving deposit holders at least £500 out of pocket with little hope of getting their money back. Last week, apparently somebody that put their deposit down got an email from Norton saying there are no plans to produce the Atlas, and they advised it to take up a claim with the liquidators, BDO, to try and receive a refund for your deposit. Well, the chances of that pretty slim, I would think. So with just the 44,000 V4 SV Superbike currently on sale, and the website listing both a 185 bhp V4 CR naked plus a reworked Commando 961 coming soon, the latest move would suggest that Solihull-based Norton are moving closer to becoming a premium boutique brand rather than a manufacturer for the masses. What a shame that is. I really like the look of these Atlases. I was really looking forward to having a go, and I wonder what became of these prototypes, because they do look great, don't they? Such a shame Norton appear to be going that way. Again, interested in your comments below on that story. All right, Bobber goes full on 80s. I love the look of this. The Triumph Bobber generally, I'm not a massive fan of the look, or indeed the bike, but this custom version I think just looks cleaner and neater, and it's something that you can do for yourself, because JVB Customs have come up with a kit that gives it this sort of modern minimalist look. It says here, this cut down minimalist modernised Triumph Bonneville Bobber is the latest from German customiser JVB Moto, who will soon be offering a replica parts for you to make your own. It's based on the original 2017 version of the Bobber. It doesn't say here when it's going to be available, how much it's going to cost, so maybe it's going to be quite expensive, I don't know. But I think that has a big improvement on the look of the Bobber. It's suddenly a really cool looking machine with that. So it'll be interesting to see how much those kits are going to cost. What's this next story? Diavel sprouts an extra set of horns. Yes, the Ducati Diavel has gone V4 now, so that's meant some changes to the bike, cosmetically and otherwise. Noticeably for me is the 4-pipe exhaust, which I think looks absolutely awesome. What doesn't look so awesome is they moved the indicators up. They used to be on the haunches, didn't they? Look quite cool. Now they're on the top. They look like Brian the Snail from Magic Roundabout, which is a bit of a shame. What it says here, though, in the article, Ducati looks set to unleash a new V4 version of their Diavel Power Cruiser, which has been a staple of the Bologna firm's V-twin lineup since 2011. Clearly evident are the Gran Turismo V4 engine, sculpted 4X exhaust, which does look cool, complete switchgear and Diavel V4 logo stitched into the seat unit. There's also a new, more discreet steel trellis frame and a more upright, repositioned rear shock bolted between the single-sided swing arm and the subframe beneath the seat. The indicators have gone from being integrated in the shoulder fairings to sitting in front of the handlebars like tentacles. You know, that's exactly what they're like. While the tape can't disguise the fact that the bike will be available in red. Of course, it's a Ducati. It has to be red, doesn't it? So yeah, the Diavel looks nice. It'll be very interesting to see how it goes in V4 guys. I've always been a little bit disappointed with how they've ridden in the past when I've ridden the Diavels, but there's no denying they look super cool. And this with that 4X exhaust is just nuts. So looking forward to seeing the finished version of that. And then, yeah, I think the last story in this edition of the paper, Super Sport Perfection, the Panigale V2 and the F3RR are keeping the class alive, but which one cuts through corners like a hot knife through butter? So here we have the MV Agusta F3RR, which I recently rode. I'll stick a link to my review in the corner here, up against the Ducati Panigale V2. Now, I am an owner of an 899 Panigale, so I have that in my mind when I read about the V2. Of course, the V2 is much improved over the 899 in a number of ways, but I thought when I rode the MV Agusta F3, it was much better than my 899. Let's see what MCN have said. Michael Nees, my favourite reviewer, he says they may lack the kudos of a 200 brake horsepower superbike, but these two are cheaper and their screaming engines and smaller capacities make them nimbler, infinitely more involving and less of a handful. The Ducati is the more rounded of the two, its V-twin is more flexible, the riding position roomier, ride quality plusher, and it's more stable on bumpy roads. Now that all surprises me because that's pretty much the polar opposite of what I said when I rode the MV. I thought it was a plusher, nicer ride. It says here MV's 3-cylinder F3RR is stiffer and more raucous than the Ducati, which makes it more exciting in small doses and a weapon on smooth roads, but is let down by its brakes, minimal dash functionality and dated switchgear. Interesting. So that's kind of the opposite of what I thought. They've given the MV Agusta 4 out of 5 and the Panigale V2 5 out of 5, and it's worth noting the Panigale is 16,000 quid thereabouts, and the MV Agusta is basically 20 grand, so it's a big difference in price, yet they prefer the Panigale. Interesting. I just love the looks of both these bikes. I'd have both of them in my garage just to look at, never mind ride. I think the F3 looks beautiful, I think the Panigale looks beautiful, so there we go. Anyway, interesting. The switchgear on the F3, yeah, is a bit dated looking, but no big deal as far as I'm concerned. I loved it. I'm quite surprised. That's a completely different verdict to the one I had, but Neevesy knows his sports bikes. I'm no expert. It's just my opinion. What does it matter? Right, final paper then in this month's bike news. First off, what's that coming over the hill? Ducati reveal a lighter, cleverer, I'm not sure what clever is a word, is it? And more focused Monster SP. So this was one of those announcements that they made in the last month. They had a few announcements of new bikes. This is the new Monster SP version. These are the first official pictures of Ducati's new for 2023 top of the range Monster SP. Although the engine, frame, clocks and riding position are unchanged, virtually every other aspect of the SP is new, it says here. More aggressive paint job, there's a new red saddle, Monster SP logo on the pillion seat cover, larger Ducati logo on the tank. Suspension is now fully adjustable, courtesy of top spec Öhlins at the front and rear. Brakes have been upgraded, new steering damper and small fly screen, smart new Terminioni silencer, and lots of other changes as well. The SP is expecting dealers at the end of the year, prices have yet to be announced. Well, the standard Monster was an amazing bike to ride. I'm sure this will be absolutely fantastic. It'll be interesting to see how much it costs though, so yeah, I like that one. Here we are. Oh, and another story on the same page here. BMW R13GS spied. Now, MCN keep getting these spy shots, don't they, of the new GS that's rumoured to be around the corner. It says here, BMW's R1300GS adventure bike looks to be just weeks away from an official reveal. And of course, BMW have never said anything official about this, have they? There's been some leaks, but nothing official. So MCN is saying it's just around the corner. These fresh spy shots show portions of a road-ready machine complete with factory-fitted accessories. The new 1300 will take over from the R1250 GS. It's clear that the traditional beaky GS silhouette will remain. Well, let's hope that's the case. One of the previous spy shots we saw showed you the sort of radar-y bit, and it looked a bit weird at the front. It didn't look very GS-like. I'm really hoping they haven't changed the front end too much, because die-hard fans of the GS like me, I actually like the looks of it. I think it looks purposeful and rugged, so I hope they do keep the looks of it. The front radial calipers appear to be new. There's an electronic module mounted under the front nose cone, which could be part of a new radar-assisted cruise control system. I'm sure it is. Its rivals have that, and they also have it on the RT, I think now, don't they? What I hope it has is that blind spot detection in the mirrors like the Multistrada has. That's an absolutely brilliant safety feature. Fresh mounting points to the base of the engine indicate that the old bike's tubular steel frame has been heavily tweaked or completely replaced. There's a twin-exit Akrapovic silencer as well, or Akrapovic, always get told off about that. I love the look of this new exhaust with the two pipes instead of the old one looked a bit like a refrigerator bolted on the side, didn't it? This one is definite improvement. We expect the official reveal in line with this year's show season in October and November. As I say, BMW haven't said anything, so we'll have to wait and see when this comes out, but I'm waiting with bated breath to see what the new GS is like, and I'm sure many thousands of other GS fans are too. It's a big bike for BMW, that one. They can't afford to get that wrong. New Enfield on the right track. Dirt-inspired 650 twin tracker spied testing on UK roads. Now this one, I can't get excited about. It's got a lot of similarity between the Interceptor, which of course I love. I'm an Interceptor owner, and I really love that bike. This one though doesn't look that special to me. It says here, a new street tracking naked version of Royal Enfield 650 twin range looks almost ready to go into production. New non-adjustable inverted forks, twin seat, black wire wheels and flat tracker style race plate side panels. The twin shocks are also different, losing their piggyback adjusters. So yeah, the front forks have changed. That might be a change for the better, might improve handling. Perhaps the original Interceptor can get a bit out of shape when you're pushing on the suspension front. Otherwise, there's nothing about this bike that really lights my fire. I have to say, I don't really like the look of that exhaust either. So I don't know, maybe it's just me and I'm in a bit of a whingy mood, I don't know. But what do you think? Do you think that's a bike that'll make you ditch your Interceptor and go and buy a new Royal Enfield? Or is it just a bit, nah? That's my thinking anyway. Sorry, Royal Enfield, not keen on that one. And then last but not least here, they've done this security special, this in-depth look at their favourite security items. And I had to mention this because it says here their pick is the Guardsman garage security barrier from Image 4 Security, one of the channel sponsors. And I've had mine now for 2 years, would you believe? In fact, I've got two of these. Got a double garage, so I've got two of these mounted on it. It's an amazing bit of kit. MCN here have said, this is a great bit of kit, and we know because we've tested it, me too. A stainless steel telescopic arm extends to fit into posts at either side of the garage and locks in place to form a barrier that stops your bike from being wheeled out. It doubles as a ground anchor too. A hydraulic support takes the weight off the 20kg arm when you open it to get your bike out. It's not cheap, but it's worth it, and it's Soul Secure approved too. It's not cheap at £600, but I would say, you know, look, if we look over this page, the other thing they recommend is this Squire Behemoth lock. That's 650 quid for a lock and chain. What would you rather have, the Guardsman garage door barrier or a lock and chain for 50 quid more? So I wouldn't say it's that expensive. Having now used this for, as I say, 2 years, I'm very pleased with mine. It's a lovely action when you use it. It's a good bit of kit. I thoroughly recommend it. And I'm not just saying that because they sponsor the channel. I was really interested in this product when I first saw it, and they subsequently became sponsors. So yeah, great bit of kit that. Particularly if you've got multiple bikes, then do recommend you have a look at the Guardsman from Image 4 Security. A really good addition to your onion of security products. It's all about layering when it comes to security, isn't it? Anyway, that's it for the papers, which means it's time for... Yes, this month's parish notice is a few things I want to mention to you. First off, coming up on the channel over the next month, another 6 episodes of the Alaska tour. I think that is, it just gets better and better, that tour. Thank you for everybody that's watched them so far and for all your comments. Keep them coming. I love to read them. Do stay tuned to that. I think it's the best tour I've ever done, to be fair. And then on the 26th of October, we'll interrupt the tour to bring you a classic review, courtesy of my friends at Superbike Factory. I've been riding the Honda Super Blackbird. That is a great machine. Check out that review on the 26th of October. Then on the 29th, will be the next bike news, and then after that we'll continue with the Alaska tour again. So a little hiatus for a bike news and a classic tour. That's a classic review, sorry. That's the way it's going to continue for a month or two on the channel. A couple of shout outs I wanted to mention. The National Motorcycle Museum is once again hosting Museum Live. Do you remember that? They did it last year. I think this time the event is on the 29th and 30th of October. It's free of charge to get into, so it means not only can you look at the museum free of charge on those days, but also you can go and see and attend talks by people like Henry Cole, Alan Millyard and other biking celebrities there. Sam Lovegrove is there as well and others. So that's the 29th and 30th of October. Stick that in your diary. And the other thing that you must put in your diary is the Adventure Bike Rider Festival on the 23rd and the 25th of June 2023. Don't forget, if you haven't bought your tickets yet, if you use TMF5 at checkout, you can get 5% off of the ticket price, and that's in conjunction with any other offers that may be on at the time as well. So an extra 5% off if you use TMF5 for your ABR Festival tickets. So stick that in the diary. Before we go, must just say something that I don't do enough of, and that is to thank my sponsors. Without my sponsors and my patrons, I just couldn't continue to run the Missenden Flyer as I do. So first off, Superbike Factory, thank you to you guys. Not only do they supply me with the bikes for the classic reviews, which is just fantastic, gives me access to older bikes, but they are Europe's largest used motorcycle manufacturer. They've got an incredible website. I'll put a link below. If you go to their website, you can pretty much put in any motorcycle model of the last 20 years. The chances are they've got them in stock for sale. So do go and check that out. It's a brilliant website and a great company. Go and check that out, as I say, links below. Next up, Lightlock. Have to mention them again. I've been using Lightlocks now for a couple of years. They've got some new products coming out soon, of which more on the channel soon. Again, I'll put a link to their channel below. Their website below, lightlock.com I think it is, but there is a link below. Bikerheads.co.uk is another website I would encourage you to look at, because they are the UK distributors for most of the kit that I wear. So things like the Schubert helmets, the rucker gear you see me wear, other stuff as well, Daytona boots. They have all the best kit that you can get for motorcycling, I think. They're at bikerheads.co.uk. Check them out. Image 4 Security, we've already mentioned the makers of the Guardsman garage door barrier, brilliant bit of kit. And of course, Canary Motorcycle Tours, you can't forget them, my longest continuous sponsor I think on the channel. If you want to go and ride in the Canary Islands, get yourself some winter sun, check out Canary Motorcycle Tours. Again, link down in the description for them. Great value tours, really friendly people, great place to go to ride in the winter particularly. Again, thank you to my patrons for all your ongoing help and support of the channel. Couldn't do it without you. And of course, thank you to you for watching this edition of Bike News, and for all your comments and for all the love that I get. In the main, it's all great comments, and I love reading them, so keep them coming. I'll try and answer as many as I possibly can. All right, that's it for this month's Bike News. Look forward to speaking to you again soon. Until then, this has been the Mr. Them Flyer. Cheerio.